What's going on, man? This is A. Look here, you're moving to the hurdle. I just got my first touchdown this week, and you are listening to Cody Carpentier and Matty Kiwoom.
Yeah, what is up, everybody? Let's go.
No other way to start. I had to start it that way, Matty, because I knew, one, it was probably going to catch you off guard, and two, if people listen to the walkthrough the last 2 weeks on the South Harmon podcast network, or however you want to call that, a fantasy football podcast network, regardless, anywhere you get podcasts, this happened in South Harmon. The walkthrough, Matty's show, has been there. And we've talked about Xavier Legette. We've talked to Xavier Legette the last 2 weeks. He's jumped on the show. He's a good friend of the show. And he told us, I'm coming. And he did it, Matty. He caught that touchdown this week. We're big fans. We're big happy. We're excited. And so we had to give him his opportunity to intro the show. Matty Kiwoom, episode 96, the greatest year on earth. 1796, 1896, and of course 1996, when yours truly was born. How was your damn Tuesday going?
It was going okay, and then you just kind of ruined it a little bit, making me realize how old I am, that you were born in 96. I'm almost 10 years older than you. Born in 88. But, yeah, it's nice. I mean, I wish I was out in Cali right now. But I can't complain. Because you're in Cali, I was able to hop on the cook-up this morning with our guy Fizzle Dollars. That was a blast, a lot of fun. Talking ball for damn near 2 hours. It was a blast. So, yeah, this is the recording number 2 for the day. Feeling primed and ready to rock. And I'm very excited because we're dropping our first iteration of the hurdle ratings in 2024.
I will say, before we jump into this, 1 year ago, when we started the hurdle, this is now episode 96. So we're getting there. But one year ago, when we started doing the hurdle rating, we started in week 5. And the teams that we had at the top, 1 through 5, San Fran, Philly, KC, Detroit, Buffalo. Those are the top teams.
Mm-hmm.
And last I checked, Detroit, San Fran played in the NFC Championship.
That's right.
And KC won the Super Bowl.
That's right.
So, I'm not saying we're geniuses because, it's pretty clear what the best team was last year, but we're pretty damn good at our job. So we're going to start this year, week 5, talking through the top teams in football. And I'm going to have a tough time with this one, Matty, because I've been honest about this. And when we talk about the Circa Million show I do with Alex and Mitch, can't miss Mitchell and Roster Watch, when I do SiriusXM, when I do a show with you, when I do a show with Fizz, when I'm on the phone with my brother, when I'm talking to friends, all of them ask the question, are the Vikings how long is Darnold's glass slipper going to stay on? Is this defense beatable? Is this team really this good? And my answer, Matty, and I've bet against these guys 3 straight weeks: Houston, San Fran, Green Bay. I bet against them. I pick in every week, pick them. I pick against them every single time. And that's because I innately think it's going to be a great battle. I thought C.J. Stroud versus Flores was going to be a great battle. I thought San Fran had a little bit too much for him. I thought Green Bay, with Jordan Love getting back, they were going to be a little too potent. Boy, I got them as my number 1 team. And again, I got 26 years or whatever the hell it is, 27 years of Minnesotan, dick stabbings from this football team. And this is no bias attached. I
know it pains you.
I think today, October 1st, through 1 month of football, I think Minnesota's the best football team in the NFL today.
Listen, I don't think you're far off. They're my number 2 team, so I don't think you're far off in your rankings. I think that the hurdle score kind of gives a good barometer of where we feel as a collective. And Minnesota comes in with the highest hurdle rating for a reason. Brian Flores has this defense playing aggressive, vicious, tenacious. They lead the NFL in sacks right now. They're amongst, some of the best in terms of top 10 sack percentage. They're getting after the quarterback. And the thing about the Vikings to me that stands out is the schedule that they've played to be 4-0. I get it. The Giants, they suck. That's fine. But then to host the Niners and win convincingly, to host the Texans and dog walk the Texans, and then go to Green Bay. And I know that game finished as a 2-point final, but I don't think it ever felt like it was a 2-point game. It felt like the Vikings had control of that game from jump, didn't let go, and yet Love went crazy throwing a bunch of touchdowns at the end. I don't know. It feels like they belong where they belong, and I would say this for the rest of the teams in the NFL. I think it's a big, big, big lesson to learn. Don't be too smart or don't think you're too good to not take the pass rusher at the top of the NFL draft. I think a lot of teams are kicking themselves in the nuts right now for not taking Dallas Turner. They made sure that they didn't screw up on missing him. They moved up to make sure they locked him in after locking in J.J. McCarthy. And now we've seen it 2 years in a row where the team that had 2 first-round picks, the ones that did it right, went offense and then pass rush. We started with the Texans last year, getting Anderson. We see it this year, getting Turner, and it's made a world of difference. World of difference. And they're here to stay. And if they continue this ascent up to the top of the NFL, at what point, though, Cody, do they think to themselves, we're not going to gamble. Sam Darnold's going to be our guy for the next 4 years, and we'll figure out what to do with McCarthy later. At what point? What is his record? Where do they have to finish for that to be in the zeitgeist of the Minnesota Vikings organization?
First, I want to address the edge thing. And the edge thing you brought up was Dallas Turner and what the Vikings did on defense. And I think that the first thing needs to go to Brian Flores for getting every player that he wanted in specific spots. Andrew Van Ginkel's been big. When Ivan Pace has played, he's been big. He was a draft pick a couple years ago. Late, was it 7th? Or, was he UDFA? Wait, was he UDFA? Whatever. 7th or UDFA for Ivan Pace, the short guy out of Cincinnati. But the big move this offseason was, is Danielle Hunter going to be a Viking, or are they going to move on from him? And Danielle Hunter was one of my favorite Vikings of all time. 2 years, $50 million. He goes to Houston, so that's $25 million per. With that $25 million, they did not pay Danielle Hunter. They went out and got Jonathan Grenard, who leads the team in pressures by like 7, who they paid 4 years, $75 million. So my math tells me that's $16.5 million per year. They got Andrew Van Ginkel for $7 million signing bonus, for $20 million. So that's $10 million per year. So that's 16 and 10. So it's $26 million. You get Van Ginkel and Grenard, the 2 highest pressured guys on the team. And then you used your first round pick on Dallas Turner, who has a 4-year, fully guaranteed $15 million contract. So that tells me that's $3.5 million APY. So for $30 million, you got Jonathan Grenard, Andrew Van Ginkel, and Dallas Turner with no headache of Danielle Hunter having to pay one guy $25 million per, who has been banged up the last couple of years. And I love Danielle Hunter, but Grenard, Van Ginkel, and Turner, what are we talking about?
Yeah,
like that was a masterful thing, and that was a big conversation in Minnesota. Is Danielle Hunter going to be a Viking or not? And I think Grenard, Van Ginkel, and Turner, granted Turner's been a little banged up. Like, it's been a great pivot, I guess you'd say, for Flores and for this Vikings defense. Now at quarterback, I texted you about this the other day, and my thought here spans around 2 things. One being, what Darnold's doing right now is going to put himself in the Jared Goff conversation. I think if this team wins 11, 12 games, he puts himself in the Jared Goff conversation. Jared Goff's contract, the last I checked, May 13th, 4 years, $212. I'm not saying he's going to get that tomorrow or in May, but APY, what's 212 divided by 4? That is $53 million. Woo! And I'm not saying, like I said, I'm not saying he's going to get that, but if you're talking about, I think he belongs in that conversation if they win 10, 11, 12 games, 11, 12. This guy's going to take a 2-year, $90 million. That's what he's going to want. If
I mean,
Darnold,
that's what he's going to ask for, especially if he finishes in the top 5 MVP. He gets, like you said, 11, 12 wins.
throws 4,000 yards, 33, 34, 35 touchdowns. Like he's 20, what is he, 26, 27? He was young when he came out. He's 20 when he came out. I mean, he's 26, 27 years old right now. I mean, this guy's got plenty. So that becomes the question is like, do you want to pay this guy? You're sitting in the same exact situation the Vikings were sitting in a year ago with Kirk Cousins. Do you pay him or not? Granted, he's way younger. He's not coming off an Achilles. Do you pay him or not? Do you trust that McCarthy sitting for 1 year is enough? He's going to be healthy. He's going to be good. He's going to roll. Or do you just say, all right, cool. We're going to pay Darnold 2 years, 90. We're going to see what happens. And that's going to essentially make J.J. McCarthy, Jimmy Garoppolo, or Jordan Love. And he's going to sit for 2 to 3 years. And that's the predicament they're going to find themselves in. Do you franchise tag him and trade him, Sam Darnold, and you get, ammo or draft assets? Or do you straight up say, no, you're our quarterback for at least the next 2 years. We're gonna give you another chance, because it seems like they love him in the locker room. They give him game balls after every game. Kevin O'Connell, you can, like, for me, I see that, Sammy Darnold, that's our like that's them boosting him up. I'm not sure he's internally built that way, but you can tell they're definitely giving him all the flowers that they know he needs and deserves to grow and continue to be the quarterback that we've seen on the field every single week. So I'm interested. That's going to be a big thing if this season continues to go the way it does, and they make the playoffs and they go to the divisional round or the conference championship, or heaven forbid they go to the Super Bowl. I'm not even going to talk that into existence, but that guy's he's going to want 2 years, 90, and it becomes, do you give him 2 years, 90, make McCarthy sit for 2 years, or you franchise take him and trade him?
What about franchise tag him and run it back one more year?
I wouldn't be against that.
Because you could theoretically bench him if he falls on his face to start next year.
Yeah.
On a franchise tag.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the approach. But I think what the moral of the story is, you can't have too many bullets to fire at the quarterback in edge rusher position. And the Vikings showed that this offseason in spades, and they deserve a ton of credit. That front office deserves a ton of credit, believing in the coaching staff, believing in the players that they brought back, and making sure that they didn't overextend themselves in either way. They didn't trade from 12 or whatever it was to 2. They moved up 2 spots to 10 or 11 to 10, whatever it was. So they didn't overextend themselves to make that happen. They didn't overextend themselves to get Dallas Turner. They didn't overpay Danielle Hunter. They didn't overpay one of these quarterbacks. They stayed in the pocket, and they just kind of went with the flow, and now they're in a pretty advantageous position. And I think that this team is built to win, especially if they can get some continuity in that secondary. If Stephon Gilmore can kind of get that Gilly lock going, I think that this team could be pretty scary.
Dude, him, Byron Murphy, Shaq Griffin. It's definitely different than what we're used to with Mike Zimmer, who was drafting first round corner, and flop city, as Dallas Cowboy fans found out this last week with Andrew Booth, which I think was actually Kwesi's first draft. Now that I think about that, that's random timing. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. But Stephon Gilmore comes over, free agent. Shaq Griffin, free agent. Byron Murphy from Arizona. It's interesting. But Vikings, we'll talk about. I want to talk about the NFC in totality here, because there's only 2 teams here in our top 5 in the NFC side. But I first want to say I appreciate everybody in the chat for tuning in, tapping in every single Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time, here for The Hurdle on the South Harmon YouTube channel. Dynasty Barry's up in the chat. Gooner Boy, what's going on, brother? Oscar Hernandez, is it worth picking up Trey Sermon and using Fab, or just jelly roll with Justice Hill if JT is out? Matty, what are your thoughts here? My thoughts on the surface are Baltimore's found a good system the last 2 weeks, and it's involved Justice Hill. So I tend to kind of believe in Justice Hill and PPR. Now, if JT's out, I think the Sermon thing has legs.
Yeah, you have to put some fab in, Oscar. You have to take a bid at him. I wouldn't overextend. I wouldn't break the bank. maybe like what do you have it at? 15 or so percent, 10% for
I would,
Trey Way?
yeah, I don't know if I would quite go 15. I would probably stay more around like that 10, 11, 12 area than 15.
I think that's probably the best bet, especially because you do have someone like Hill. But we saw this last year. Don't even worry about picking up Zach Moss. He sucks. Don't pick him up. We all wished we would have picked him up. So you can't fall for it twice. Clearly, this role, this position, highlights players of mediocre talent. I'm not calling JT mediocre talent. I think he's got tremendous talent. And when you couple that with the role is why you have one of the best running backs in fantasy. But in terms of Trey Sermon, yeah, I would give – I'd push 12. I think I'd push 12%, bring him aboard because you're never going to feel confident playing Justice Hill. You're never going to look at that projection and be excited, where Sermon will have some value if Thomas is out.
Sherman, the
Shermanator.
Remember Thurman Merman?
No, what's Sherman Merman?
Thurman Merman from Bad Santa?
Sherman Merman. I got to watch you some Bad Santa.
Thurman Merman from Bad
Thurman
Santa.
Merman. Is that the kid, the fat kid's
Hey,
name?
Santa, do you want a sandwich? I can make you some sandwiches.
I can make you some sandwiches. You do that
Hey,
pretty good.
Santa, would you like some sandwiches?
Thurman Merman and Xavier Leggett. Secret impressions from Cody Carpentier. I love it. There
you go. But no, I think Oscar in totality, I think the move is Justice Hill. And then to be honest with you, if you got a free roster spot, I would what I will do in a couple of leagues, if actually I probably can't do it now that I'm about to say the words, but I'm going to add Tyler Goodson in a couple of spots just because he's a plus athlete, a little jitterbug with big burst from Iowa. And we've seen him show explosion at opportunities in the preseason, and he's the next guy behind Sermon, and I think he's got a little more juice than Sermon. So I'm not saying that's going to lead to anything, but that's kind of the move I like to make. I made it with Johnny Wilson last week to see what was going to happen in Philly, and I cut him. I'm going to cut him this week. I'm going to add Goodson. So that's kind of the move I would make. Augusto, is this Kashishian, something like this? My running backs are Hall.
Kashishian sounds pretty good. I think you hit it. I think you nailed it.
Hall, Kamara, Ford, Dobbins. Pretty solid. Mm-hmm. Receivers are London, Rice, London, Neighbors, Godwin, Pittman, Deontay Johnson, and Tay Bowers. I like that. I like Tay Bowers better than tight end Bowers. Would you do London for Tyreek? Gosh. I mean, Matty, for me, this comes down to one simple thing. Is Tua going to come back?
It feels like he's going to be back week 8. So then he's symptom-free. He's going to come back the minute he's ready off of IR.
They need it. This team's dead.
They're dead in the water without Tua Tagovailoa.
Our guy Tom that we helped draft. He's a patron. He's a goat. We've been in the championship 3 consecutive seasons of drafting with Tom, and his team is disgusting. Disgusting. Jameson, Tyreek, Marvin, and Neighbors. And every week it's stabbing the wrong, benching the wrong guy. And this week he played Tyreek again. And he's just like, man, I'm done. I can't play Tyreek anymore. I'm done. And it's like, it's completely Tua driven. And it's like, it's nuking teams, nuking them. It's almost like he's hurt. It's almost like McCaffrey. It's almost like he's just not playing, but it's like in your lineup and it's killing you.
Yeah, but I will say this though, Augusto. I think you do it. I went back and watched every opportunity that Tyreek Hill had in last night's game, and he still got the juice. That there was 3 deep ball. If Tua was quarterback, he probably would have had 3 deep touchdowns. Definitely 2. He was severely underthrown on one, severely overthrown on the other. But the first end around he took on the game, he brought it for about 12, 13 yards. He still has it. And I will say this about Tyreek in leagues. If whoever has Tyreek is dangling him for cheap, it's worth the shot because even Tyler Huntley this week, if he just connects one time of those deep balls, he's going to make his fantasy hay this week as a wide receiver 2, borderline wide receiver 1. And if Tua comes back, and it seems more of like a when than an if, especially given the Dolphins' next few weeks. I mean, the Patriots, they can potentially win that game. Then they have their bye. Then Tua's knocking on the door. He's a week away. So I would do this move. I would do this move for sure, especially if it's a seasonal league. I'm doing it.
I would be interested. I know you have a column that goes up every week. You have 2 columns up on SouthHarmonFF.com. I'll be interested to see, and I don't know if you will talk about, these buy or sells or not. Maybe you already have. I'd be mistaken. I don't remember. But very few opportunities in life will you have to trade for a Tyreek Hill and a Christian McCaffrey in the same season in week 5 from a team that is reeling. There are teams out there, like I just said, reeling because they have Tyreek Hill, reeling because they don't have McCaffrey as their stone at drafting from the 101. They have McCaffrey. They're fighting. They're 1-3 right now. They're like, I don't know what to do. I need a running back. Give me something. Give me Ken Walker. And you're like, you want Ken Walker? I'll give you Ken Walker. You give me McCaffrey. And how about that tight end you got? Give me and like just kick me some and more. Like I would do that, right? And on the Tyreek side, like teams again are reeling. They need something. They don't know how to trust. Fine. If that Tyreek owner's, scared to death that Tua's never going to play football again, take advantage of it. I mean, you could be sitting in a spot. I'm not saying McCaffrey's guaranteed to come back, but I do think he's going to be back by fantasy playoffs 100%, even though he's got double Achilles tendonitis, which doesn't make any sense. I still think you have to try and do that. I think you still have to try and make a move on that. So
let me ask you this.
Wild time. Oh, let me ask you this. He just dipped out, but that's okay. I appreciate you. Fizzle says Sam Darnold, Vikings, McCarthy to the Raiders. I mean, to be honest with you, I don't think you ever trade away a rookie quarterback. Hey, look, he's back. I don't think you ever trade away a rookie quarterback, even if you do sign Darnold to an extended thing, because the turn rate at which quarterbacks tank and all of a sudden the roster's dead. You don't just go, oh, we have JJ. We're cool with Nick Mullins if Sam Darnsky gets hurt. Mr. Wonderful, content on content on content on content on content on content. I love this shit. We love you, Mr. Wonderful. Matty, you were saying something before you inexplicably just left us dry and high.
I don't know. I think I just Apple moused myself, which happens every so often.
When you're writing something, you just slide it back.
You just slide out of existence. First of all, shout out Mr. Wonderful. I met Paul at the shit school. He's an absolute goat. But I wanted to ask you this because this is actually popping up in my home league, and I hope no one from my home league is watching because it could blow everything up. But I have an opportunity. I'm 1-3. But I have a win now team. And in this league, I will never rebuild in your home league. I am always pedal to the metal. I have an offer to move Zay Flowers in a round 2 for Tyreek.
Yep.
I've been very adamant that I don't want to add the pick. But in this league, picks aren't as they're not that they're not valuable, but they get thrown around. They're more of just like, you know what I mean? They're not as saturated. It's not as important to hoard picks.
Yeah, I'm doing that. I mean, especially in a home league, no offense to your league mates, you're different when it's drafting rookies than they are. So it's a second. I understand it holds weight, but more than likely they're not going to use it the right way, and your 3rd round pick is going to hold fine value. So, I mean, I love Zay, but let's be honest. They found out right quick the first couple of weeks that having this be a 15 target thing for Zay wasn't going to work. I mean, this is a Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson, Justice Hill, spread you out, gun you. Like that's just, I mean, it's just what it is, unfortunately. So Zay is going to go the way of, Cuck City, Utah, which is fine, but we know he's good. But yeah, if you can get that out of him, I think you 100%, especially if you're continually winning now.
I'm not winning right now, but I certainly
you're attempting to.
I am definitely pushing it in because this is a league where there's like the 1 seed, the 2 seed, and then the 3 seed all the way to the 14 seed is all fucking a game apart.
Yeah. I like that. All right. I got to go get some sushi in a little bit. So let's get through these top 5 here in the hurdle rating this week. Again, these will be up on a graphic at some point next week. We'll start ripping them out on graphics. We'll have a better portrayal so they're up on the screen for you during the show. I dropped the ball on that. I'll take ownership in that. I fucked it up. I was the one on the flight yesterday for 5 hours and had time to do it and fucked it up and forgot. I bought the Wi-Fi on the plane
You're on
and didn't do it.
vacation, though. I
I'm a little
get
bit
it.
handy. I might have been drinking Coronas this morning already. I don't know. Anyways, number 2 is a tie between Kansas City and the Detroit Motor City Kitties. They just had a big win that Matty, quite frankly, we talked about this in the walkthrough last week. What did we say about this game?
This is a meter stick game.
Points.
Oh, yeah,
Points.
we knew that. We knew that big time.
And this is the funny thing is we talked about how high scoring these games were. And I vividly remember on Sunday, and I probably should go back to the Roster Watch YouTube channel, go on the transcript, Command F 71. I literally, toot my own horn. Toot, 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 toot. You can't see it right now, but I'm going toot, 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 toot my own horn. I literally said 70. This is a 71-point game, and the thing nailed 71. I'm just saying, like, we just knew what this game was. And we knew Detroit could do it because they had the firepower to do it because they've done it the last couple of years. Now, this is 3 of the last 4 games between Detroit and Seattle that have gone the way of a 71-point or more game. So I think this is a really good football team. I have Detroit as my number 2 team. But they're tied with somebody because Matty Kiwoom has the Kansas City Chiefs as his number 1 team. So when Kansas City's ranked number 1 for him and they're not for me, it equates to them being a little bit lower. As you know, I have Kansas City quite a bit lower. I'll just put it that way. That's why the algorithm spit them out at number 2, tied with Detroit. But I do want you to make your case, and I want you to have the ability to for Kansas City. You have them as the number 1 team ahead of Minnesota. Is it as simple as to be the man, you got to beat the man, or is there more to it?
We've done this before. This is the exact same conversation. We could go back to the first unveiling of the hurdle rating last year, and I guarantee you the conversation will sound almost exactly like this, where I'm just not betting against them. They've done everything that they can. They're 4-0. They've gone through their adversity. They've now lost their wide receiver 1, their wide receiver 2, and their running back 1. They're pulling Kareem Hunt in off the street. Travis Kelce hasn't done dick all in the season so far, and here they are, 4-0, handling business. They got a positive run point differential. They're 20 over right now, which is about middle of the pack in terms of the point differential statistic. They're right where they want to be, and there's really just no. It's more than just beat to be the champ. You have to beat the champ. And they got the Saints this weekend. That's going to be a tough game. They got the Niners coming out of the bye, but then they got the Raiders, the Bucks, the Broncos, the Bills, the Panthers, the Raiders again, the Chargers. I mean, it looks like they are going to waltz their way into the playoffs with 3 losses, 4 at most. I'm just not going to take them down when all they've done is win.
This team over the last couple of years, so this is during the tenure of Patrick Mahomes, they've never started out the season 6-0. They went 5-0 in 2018, lost to New England in week 6. In 2019, they started out 4-0. They lost the next 2 to the Colts and Texans, so 4-2. In 2020, 4-0, lost to the Raiders, 4-1. In 2021, 2-2. Actually, 2-3 was how they started that one. 2022, they won 2 in a row, lost to the Colts, 1-2, lost to the Bills. In 2023, lost to the Lions, and then they went on a big streak. They won 6 in a row before losing to the Broncos, and now this year they're 4-0. So they're fighting through the adversity, right? They got the Saints this week at home, and they got a bye. Yep. They could, and then Andy Reid coming off a bye. What are we talking about? I know they have to go to the Raiders, but it's Andy Reid coming off of a bye. Like, it's very impressive. And to see that Mahomes is not playing like the original, like the Mahomes we know. He's openly saying that, like, I'm turning the ball over. I'm not playing how I should be. Kelsey's not playing how Kelsey should be. He had a good bounce back this week, of course, showing life. But this team's, lost Pacheco, lost Rice. Everybody forgets they lost Hollywood Brown before he did anything. Mm-hmm. Like, they're down. Sign Kareem Hunt off the street. It's working. Like, this is how championship teams are built. And this is why Kansas City's won back-to-back championships, because they're built on depth. They're built on draft picks. They're built on defense. They're built on offensive line. They're built. And to see them to continue to do this, and to Patrick Mahomes to continue to get these wins, even in these disgusting 17-10 games against the Chargers, 22-17 games, win by a point against the Bengals, 7-point game against the Ravens, like tight games. It's impressive. It's impressive, and it can't be overlooked. Again, like I said, like they never started out 6-0, and the door is right there. You got this game against the Saints at home, a night game, a primetime game. You got to bye. You come out, you get the Niners. I mean, then you want to look past that, you got the Raiders. I mean, come on, what are we talking about? Like, this is a very, even with this team being beat up, I can't say I hate it, but again, I just have Kansas City for strict reasons being, I have Detroit 2, Baltimore 3. What we saw from Baltimore in primetime, what we saw from Detroit in primetime this week specifically, what these teams are, how potent their offenses are, how Baltimore, we were talking about 2 weeks ago, man, like, gosh, if this team doesn't find it, it's going to be a long motherfucking year. And guess what? We both have them top 4 last I checked. So
They found it.
I think they're a good football team. I think Detroit's a really good football team. We saw that last year. It's interesting. I definitely came into the season. Chicago was getting all the hype in the NFC North. The thought was probably Green Bay, Detroit, as the 2 NFC North ringleaders potentially playing in the NFC Championship against each other. And now Green Bay's 2-2 coming off a loss against the Vikings. And the Vikings are undefeated, top of the chain. So it's interesting on that side, but I do think Kansas City, I'm probably a touch low because it is the best quarterback in the world. But I still think them getting credit for being a top 5 team, top 4, top 3, you have them number 1. It's definitely due. So hurdle rating, number 1 team overall, Minnesota Vikings. I have them 1. Matty has them 2. Number 2 teams overall, Kansas City Chiefs. Matty has them 1. I have them 4. Detroit's tied. I have them 2. Matty has them 3. The 4th team in the hurdle rating this week, the first iteration, is the Baltimore Ravens. I have them 3. Matty has them 4. Incredible. Almost, 300 yards rushing between Justice Hill, Lamar, and Derrick Henry. The big dog has just doom, doom, doom. He's just ascended every single week since we said they got to find out we need 21, 22, 23, 24 touches. Turns out he only needed 1. Turns out he only needed 1.
No kidding. Before we move on to Baltimore, though, Cody, I need to ask you this. Because I talked to Fizz about it this morning. If the owner gave you a call, the Kansas City Chiefs owner gave you a call and said, we need you to get us a wide receiver. We saw you on the hurdle. We've seen all you work. That's the pick. Okay, move on. That's the pick.
It's not Devontae. People, Byron from Roster Watch was like Devontae Adams, and I'm like, dog. Like, of course, I love that. But Mark Davis, Al Davis would roll over in his grave.
Yeah.
Mark Davis there's probably a clause in Mark Davis's contractual ownership that from Al Davis put in his contract. We could ask Lombardi about this, to be honest with you. He would probably tell you. I would bet you money that there's some wording, because Al Davis was maniacal, some wording that if you ever made a trade inside your division, you relinquish ownership of the team.
Yeah.
And I don't think Mark Davis would ever do that. But I think Amari Cooper's the 100%. This just isn't working in Cleveland. We can dig into that another day. But it's just not working. So, like I said, Minnesota, KC, Detroit, Baltimore, and the 5th and final team. We'll talk about these guys quick and we'll get out of here for you. We appreciate you guys tapping in every single Tuesday night for the hurdle. The 5th team, and I'm going to end it here because it's a top 5. It's week 5. And they're number 5. The Houston Texans, who just lost to the Minnesota Vikings in Minnesota in blowout fashion. Matty has them 5. I have them 5. It feels like a tier break after this, a pretty clear tier break as far as what the rosters look like from here and above, from Houston and above. So these 5 teams we've talked about, and then everybody else. I don't think Buffalo, Green Bay, San Fran, Tampa, Seattle, Washington, the health of these teams, the top-end talent, combined with the quarterback talent, combined in what we've seen, combined with, overall structure and game planning, offense and defense are comparable. I think there's a tier break between these top 5 and the next. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on Houston.
Houston is they're built to succeed this year. I think last year they were a year ahead in terms of what people were expecting, given, the rookie quarterback, the rookie edge rusher. But what I think was realized last year was that they were they were a year early, but then in 2024 they were really going to come out and compete at a very high level. CJ Stroud hasn't really been the fantasy monster that we had hoped he'd be. Last week was obviously great, almost 30 fantasy points, but in terms of an NFL quarterback, he's been pretty much flawless all year except for that game against Minnesota. And the head coaching staff, the offense coordinator Bobby Slowick, they're a cohesive unit that are they're gonna just run over some bad teams. The one thing I'd like to see, one thing I need to see from them is I need to see them step on a neck. And I know that's a little vulgar, but I need to see them step on a neck. They've won some games, but they haven't just come out and ransacked the team. They haven't come out and done what the Vikings did to them.
Yeah.
But here with the Bills, the Patriots, the Packers over their next 3 games, it's going to be tough, easy, and then tough. If they can come out 2-1 in this competition, 3-0, they'll prove that they're here. They'll prove that they're not to be messed with. But seeing that minus point differential is a bit concerning. But then you kind of just look at it and go, it was just one outlier. 25% of their schedule was a beatdown against them. So that's just kind of where we're at. But in terms of the hierarchy of the AFC, this is a big, big, big game for them to beat Josh Allen at home. Stephon Diggs revenge game. Fire it up, baby.
And for those wondering, that is the next team in line, obviously. Buffalo Bills, for us in the hurdle rating, are number 6 by themselves. That's the big matchup this week. It's a 1 p.m. Eastern time kickoff between the Buffalo Bills. I know Saturday is not a great slate for college football, but Sunday will pay dividends with a couple of big matchups, as well as college football. Bounce back in October 12th and October 19th with a...
I know. I'm so pumped that we're going to be kicking it in South Carolina together on the 12th because, man, there are some bangers that weekend. Red River Rivalry, baby.
I'll give you one more chance to say that right.
Red River Rivalry, baby.
There it is. He's Matty Kiwoom. I'm Cody Carpentier. That's the hurdle. Episode 96. We love you. We appreciate you. And we'll see you next Tuesday.
Peace.